Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Agascles Stamus from the E2KG Network podcasting channel on YouTube and GearWorks.com here with the premiere episode of the Enough to Keep Going weekly gaming podcast for the 2019 season. Thanks so much for joining in with us tonight. Tonight is a look ahead into 2019 as well as our year in review episode for 2018, and we'll actually be wrapping up our Gaming Superlative Awards as well. Here with me, as is the case 2/3 of the time, is my good, faithful companion and co-host, Mr. Swissguard. How you doing, Swiss?
Doing well. It's going to be a dense show tonight. Rapid, dense.
It is. But we are going to speed through. And Mr. DBQ Hams, how you doing, DBQ?
I'm ready to keep speeding on through. And welcome back. Welcome back.
Yeah, thanks so much. So let's start off with the wrap-up of the Game Superlative Awards. So what we did when we did our second annual Game Superlative Awards, we left 3 award categories on the table because last year, during the first 2 years ago, technically, during the first annual Game Superlative Awards, what we found was that shortly after recording the Superlative episode, we went on our holiday break where most of us gamed more than the norm than we do when we're working steadily. And we made some last-minute kind of discoveries at the end of the year, and we wanted to give an opportunity for these to breathe and marinate over the holiday break and then come back and consider our final answers to these last 3 categories. So let's go ahead and start running them down. First of all, let me apologize to listeners out there. I'm suffering from a really bad head cold. I'm very short of breath. I'm more congested than I normally am with my allergies, so I apologize for any pops, gurgles, slips, and slurps that you may be exposed to this evening. First category, at the top of the T, is most likely to be mentioned in other media as pop culture. DBQ, I will let you kick this one off.
Okay, so I was not going to go with the easy answer here because I think there is a big, easy one that had a huge year, but I'm going to go with Spider-Man. I'm going to go with Spider-Man, Marvel's Spider-Man for the PS4 because Marvel Spider-Man was bundled during the holiday season. It was the Black Friday PS4 bundle, the only PS4 bundle. So every mom and pop and grandma shopper out there walking through Target and Walmart, that was the gaming console that they saw, and they saw Spider-Man right at the same time in December when Into the Spider-Verse was coming out. And so there's some spider culture out there. So that's where I think that Marvel Spider-Man, which was just announced at CES, has sold over 9 million copies for Sony, is one that will kind of linger out there in non-gamers' minds.
And Swisscar, what about you, kind sir?
I think Spider-Man's a little bit of a cheat because Spider-Man was already famous. Like, the game didn't contribute to that. Spider-Man made the game, man.
It's a little bit of the reverse of the reverse, right? It's the other media as pop culture in other media.
Yes, I think you're completely right to call it a cheat. That it's taking an established IP, right? So give us a new IP that's going to count in cross media here, Swiss.
And I want to correct myself before you take over. It's pop cult. Wait, yeah. Oh, it's pop culture as games and other. I don't know. Go ahead, Swiss. Never mind.
I chose a game that was not popular on E2KG, but is apparently popular across the world. And there is a motion picture in the works and yada yada. So the fact that the motion picture's in the works kind of tipped the scales for me. And I went with Monster Hunter World. So I think Monster Hunter is a big thing. And I don't quite understand it, but it's a thing. And just from the fact that, they're producing a big budget film on it was enough to tip the scales for me.
All right, and my answer to this category, and maybe DBQ, I'm wondering if this was the gimme that you were referring to. For me, it's Fortnite.
Yeah, I don't know how it couldn't be, right? I mean, I assumed many of us would have it. I kind of threw another one out there, same as Swiss, probably threw something else out for the sake of discussion. But I agree with you that it's it is a Fortnite dominated culture, right? We've got you had Roseanne Barr tweeting about Fortnite. You have NFL players. You have NCAA basketball players talking about winning a game is not nearly as exciting as winning their, winning a Fortnite match. So yes, I think that was the gimme I was thinking of, Zoo.
I will say, I have had the completely same line of thought. Fortnite was the obvious answer, but I didn't want to go there. And I had heard from Fortnite in sports talk radio from 65-year-old sports commentators that wouldn't have even considered thinking about a video game. But there was one other interesting tidbit in pop culture. I have seen some commercials for League of Legends, and it's they include Gordon Hayward, I think his name is, from the Boston Celtics. So he's a professional basketball player, and he plays enough League of Legends where they actually signed him on to do their commercials. But I don't think it's enough to pierce the public consciousness for League.
So Agasicles, we've said why we thought this was the obvious pick, but why did you make it your pick?
So, and hold on, I need to respond to one person who has popped up in our chat.
Excellent. That's great. Thank you.
Sorry.
No, that's good. I think. How do we not pick Epic Games, right? I mean, this is a huge year from where it went.
Yeah, and this is actually a fan of our comic book show, so I don't know if he's going to stick around. So quite honestly, what's funny in contrast is you guys thought it was the obvious choice. I didn't arrive at this choice. I was definitely searching in other vectors. I only arrived at this choice after I put together the agenda for the year in review segment of tonight's show and saw the trending news articles across the year about Fortnite. And then I was like, yeah, I guess it has become kind of a household game where like moms and dads know about Fortnite. So that's why I wound up. That's how I landed on it.
Not just moms and dads, right? But teachers, right? I mean, you could go back and pull news articles about Fortnite being banned in schools because kids are, now that it's on iPhones and Android, right? That it becomes ubiquitous to some degree. Yes,
yeah, it is a problem. I actually installed it on my phone last night, and this is a thing that is kind of antithetical to me as a tech geek. When I heard that, Epic was putting it on Android as a side load, right? I'm somebody who is normally absolutely insistent that anything that I put on my phone come from the Play Store. So, but I had a bunch of friends playing Fortnite, and I was trying to tell them what my Epic gamer tag was and whatnot. So I wound up installing it on my phone.
Just one last thing on the fact that it was such a big impact in 2018 and now moving into 2019. I think we have a lot of stories when we get to that look ahead portion of the show tonight that, while not directly Fortnite related, some of them are Fortnite related, but there's a lot that have just sprung up because of Fortnite, and Fortnite was the catalyst to allow all the sorts of things, mostly surrounding Epic. But it just shows how big it is.
Well, it is, and interestingly enough, I had to go into our Facebook group tonight and talk a little bit about this effort that we've made called Stream Teams, where we try and put streamers together on a weekly basis. And one of the things that I brought up, because there's been some differences of opinion in how we execute that, and one of the things I had to bring up was this bifurcation in gamer demographic, where I talked about, there's a demographic of people who were gamers first and came to streaming because it was a vector that gaming took off in. But there are lots of people that became streamers and then conjointly latched onto the game. And a lot of those people are Fortnite players, right? They weren't really gamers in the classic sense of the word in the way that we were, but they wanted to get into streaming because it was the cool thing to do, and they decided that the transit lane that they were going to use to get there was through Fortnite. So we also have joining with us, gentlemen, raise your glasses, tip your chairs, clap your hands, and give a round, warm welcome to Mr. Osiris Prime. How you doing, Prime?
I'm well. Thank you.
And
thanks for the warm reception.
Enough, for some reason, all the co-hosts actually have glasses to tip, which that wasn't planned or pre-thought. So while we have you here, Prime, do you have a pick for most likely to be mentioned in other media as pop culture?
I think you were just talking about it, actually. My pick 2 was also Fortnite.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Any particular reason beyond the things that I already talked about?
I just kind of came in at the tail end, so no. I mean, obviously, it's like it's the big game, that everybody's talking about. It's it's everywhere, pretty much. My, for Christmas we got my son his Fortnite hat and some toys and stuff like that. So it's everywhere. So it's out there.
Very cool. So for the next category, Swiss, I will start with you. Most likely to still be playing in 2019. I think of the ones that we left over, this is the category I'm most interested to hear the co-host responses on.
Yeah, so for me, it's Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which I got a little taste of the end of 2018, enough to know that I definitely wanted to sink into it. But I wanted to wrap up some other games first. So that's kind of my big game that I plan on playing. So that was why I chose it for the category. Ongoing games that originated in 2018 would be BattleTech for the PC, but my choice is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Very good, sir. Very good. Osiris Prime, how about you, man? What game do you plan to still be playing in 2019? I
will still be playing Blackout, Call of Duty, Black Ops 4, the Blackout mode, the Battle Royale mode. So, I've fallen out of Call of Duty for the last couple of years, and this has brought me back in just because I've been big into the Battle Royale games. I play, a lot of PUBG, a little bit of Fortnite here and there. I've been playing that a little bit more, actually, even myself, especially over the break. So, but Blackout's still my game right now, so I'll be playing Call of Duty 4 Blackout mode.
Very good. For me, in 2019, I realize you guys may not have wanted me to jump this in, but because it had several expansions and lots of content drops in 2019, I'm still going to be playing Destiny. I'm sorry, in 2018, I'm still going to be playing Destiny 2, which actually helped me out, was a 2017 release.
Destiny 2 was 2017. Forsaken was 18.
Yes. So yeah, I am not nearly done with that title, so I will be continuing playing in 2019. But also, as Prime mentioned, Prime mentioned he'll be playing it a little bit. It wasn't his pick. I will also be playing more Fortnite in 2019. I think the advent of global cross-platformedness, I think, for that game is opening up a host of possibilities in terms of people that I play with and people that I stream with, who it is kind of becoming a go-to game as at least as a starting off the night kind of game. So I think that will be included for me in that roster. DBQ, how about you?
So when we wrote these down, or when we thought about them back in December, I was pretty sure mine was going to be Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, just because it had so much potential for content. But the truth is, between now and then, it's been a month, and I have not played Smash other than a little bit with my kids, and I'll continue to do that. But truth be told, the game that I'm going to spend the most time playing in 2019 is Destiny 2. I have already spent more time in that in 2019 than any other game, and I've got the chase going back to 600 now and above. So I am in and finally stumbled into Gambit mode and have really enjoyed that as well. So lots of content there, and I will definitely be back into Destiny 2.
I would have probably said that too if I didn't feel guilty about picking a game that wasn't from 2018.
See, but I would say Forsaken.
Given that Agasicles opened that loophole, I'll throw that in as one of my picks as well.
Right. I mean, I think the game as it is now with Forsaken and Black Armory is certainly different than what it was in the fall of 2017 in terms of the end game and the amount of content and the weekly content. There's a lot more there. So yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, and I think this category is a little different to me than our award category, where we might argue that, well, it's a little bit of a cheat if you allow a game in. This is a category that more so characterizes our gameplay style and content and approach. So I feel like it's allowable. And Destiny for us has kind of set that precedent before, because we did the same thing with Taken King, right? Because it just radically changed the face of that game so much. And I would also say this year, I'd have to look back. I don't remember if anybody had No Man's Sky for any picks in any of our categories. But it's a game that radically, changed its content and vector and traction with the gaming community, and would certainly be, I think, allowable as a pick for a superlative category. So let's go on to our last category: most likely to regret trading in or not playing. DBQ, I will let this one start with you.
So I'm going to do a transition pick here because I, at one point, had Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Odyssey, down as my game to most likely be still playing. But I have purchased that game and traded it twice over the course of the fall holiday season because I continued to get frustrated with it. But the game that I am disappointed that I did not get a chance to play yet and picked it up, or I got it as a Christmas gift, is Tetris Effect for the PSVR. So have that now, and looking to have a little bit of Zen out in the new year with some Tetris Effect. So that's my pick.
Prime, how about you?
My pick is a game that I cannot play because I don't have the system, and that is Spider-Man for the PS4. So that was my my pick for, obviously the playing side. I've played like all the open world Spider-Mans pretty much since they started back on the PS2, I think it was the first one. So I was just kind of sad that I didn't get to play this one, but maybe one day it'll come on either Xbox or I'll get a PS4. Who knows?
Yeah, PS2 and Xbox, I think, was the original.
No, I would go back and say, well, come on, PlayStation 1 with active or claims Spider-Man, or does that not count as open world?
Was that open world?
Maybe not. So yeah, PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
Swiss, how about you?
I chose Nintendo Switch game Octopath Traveler, which is kind of their Square's old school RPG. I was worried I probably wouldn't even pick it up just because there's always something else kind of coming out, and I was worried it would always be kind of my second choice because $60 was a lot to invest. But Nintendo just had their New Year's sale, and I did pick it up for $42. Digitally.
And that sale's still going on until the 10th.
Till the 10th, correct. And so the odds that I will play it are improving, and I won't be able to trade it in because it's digital. So,
okay. As is often the case with me, I'm going to use creative license here to cheat a little bit and also represent the fact that I have a hard time picking any one thing. So one, I regret not having played more PUBG. Again, I had a brief opportunity to play that because a viewer who popped into my stream kind of put a lot of pressure on me to play it on live stream, and so I did, and I realized how much I might enjoy that game if I gave myself a little more room to breathe with it. So I regret not having played that as much in 2018. The other thing that I regret playing is more of a category, is I regret not playing enough VR games, particularly because our good friend, still friend of the show, former member of the show, Greylock3491, has gone hardcore into VR, and I'm a little worried that when I said I was getting VR, that he thought I was going hardcore VR, and so he keeps mentioning me, I really want to get back to VR and live streaming, and I'm like, I like VR, but I wasn't planning for it to become my main thing, so I regret that a little. And by the same token, Swiss, while I have you on the show, I also regret that I have No Man's Sky on PC along with you, but I have yet to crack it open so that we can do some co-op.
That's okay. I haven't played it in a few months anyway.
Right. All right, gentlemen, so let's go ahead and start with our year in review. Is there any other business that we're supposed to be taking care of other than this?
This looks like our agenda.
I feel like we said we had a 3-part show, and I'm brain dumping.
At the top of the hour, you said we were going to tease a little bit into 2019, so we'll see what we have for time left, maybe.
Yeah, I think that's our wrap up in December anyway. So okay, January. So let's talk about the year 2018. It was a year in gaming. Contrary to what I'm hearing from the rest of the gaming media, I don't think it was as busy or as big a year as 2017 was. I felt like 2017 was a really transformative year for gaming. 2018 was a year. There was news. But let's go ahead and run down the Rolodex and let the viewers and listeners decide. Starting off in January, we had the first indication that coming out of CES that streaming of games as a service, games, through live streams was going to be more of a thing. A resurrection of the dream that was on live. First, at the beginning of the year, offered up by NVIDIA, where NVIDIA announced their intention to launch a service as an app that would stream to your PC and allow you to have access from a service base to GTX 1060s, 1070s, and 1080s streaming from a server farm. As far as I know, I don't know that service actually rolled out and was released to everyone, or at least not in wide availability. I know people who have NVIDIA Shield have access. It was actually originally an NVIDIA, a service you could access via the NVIDIA Shield. But their proclamation in January, I believe, was that this was going to become a thing where everybody was going to have access to it, regardless of platform. And I don't know that it got that much traction. And of course, we saw definitely a waning of the Shield as far as its deployment and install base, despite the second generation of hardware that deployed at the same time. So, but this is a theme that would continue throughout the year. In fact, we would hear about it more so until we clearly got that it was a theme, as a lot of the industry began to talk about games as a service and delivering them over the top through internet services and no longer and decoupling it from the dependency on hardware. On to February, DBQ, unless anybody has any comments or anything about that.
No, I think we'll come back to it because we've got a couple others that hit into that streaming and games as a subscription, right?
Yep.
So one of the news stories in February here that it did not wane throughout the year is loot boxes, right? This comes hot off the heels of November of 2017 with the last minute 11th hour changes to Battlefront 2, with even Disney getting involved at that stage. So we've got a number of stories, and I'm going to run through a couple quick here and kind of show the progression over the course of 2018. Right, in February, we get Hawaii introducing bills about no video game loot boxes for buyers under 21. There's U.S. senators who call on the ESRB and the FTC, Federal Trade Commission, to review loot box practices. Then by the end of February, the ESRB adds a new label calling it in-game purchases so that games that have loot boxes. Also at the end of February, EA, the big driver, the big kind of lightning rod around loot boxes, Battlefront 2, they announced a new progression system to Battlefront 2 coming out. Whether it's too late to make a big difference is a real question. Then in March, we get that the Netherlands rules the loot boxes to be unlawful. That Belgium adds in with gambling laws that 2K needs to tweak some of their options there. Then we get into August, and Washington State and 15 countries are teaming up over video game gambling concerns. In September, FIFA 19 has to start disclosing loot box odds. And finally, in October, the FTC agrees to investigate loot boxes. So the loot box controversy, which started in 2017, really kind of started rolling here in February of 2018 and kept on rolling throughout the year. So that is, I think, the big story for February, or for a good chunk of the year. There's lots of people who are responding to it throughout time.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, this story was really a matter of the aftermath of the Battlefront 2 mess that went down in December of 2017. And so as we turned the corner into 2018, what we started seeing was a lot of, I don't want to say knee-jerk or reactionary, but responses to the gaming community's distaste and dislike for that activity. And EA, unfortunately, brought a lot of attention to the thing, in general, and caused a lot of people to start putting eyes on it. So on into March, Osiris Prime. Prime, you're still muted.
Yeah, unmute.
Sorry.
March is a quiet month, I guess.
That's right. There's nothing happening in March. Nothing happened at all. No, sorry. I was looking at a few different things and I forgot to unmute. We get the cultural, I guess, side of video games. So as we continue in this gaming world, sometimes it's brought up, is game artistic? Is it an artistic thing? Is it should be considered an artistic thing? And we get one of the top stories here for March was the World Video Game Hall of Fame for 2018, the nominees and the finalists. So some of the 12 nominees for this year or last year were Asteroids, Call of Duty, Dance Dance Revolution, okay, Final Fantasy VII, Half-Life, John Madden Football, King's Quest, Metroid, Minecraft, Miss Pac-Man, Space War, and Tomb Raider. And out of those 12, there was 3 finalists, which were Metroid, Half-Life, Tomb Raider, and Call of Duty. And these are just as far as I can tell from this article, it looks like it's just the one game. It's not like the series, correct? If I'm not mistaken. So John Paul C. Dyson, the director of the Strong's International Center for the History of Electronic Games, just talked about briefly how they kind of pick games that kind of have an impact on the world. So anybody can nominate a game, and just some of the criteria that they look for is, if I can find it real quick, sorry. So the game has to be widely recognized and remembered. Longevity of the game. The game is more than just a passing fad. So obviously, maybe Fortnite can be on there one day. We'll be talking about that a lot tonight. Geographical reach again. Fortnite. Minecraft was in there. Unfortunately, didn't make it. Maybe one year here in the future. The game has exerted a significant influence on the design and development of other games. Yeah, I'm sure Call of Duty is in there, and Tomb Raider, also Half-Life, Metroid. Let's see what else I've got. Is it on other forms of entertainment? So movies, books. So much sure if some of these games. I guess Tomb Raider, I think, has some books. I actually saw an arcade game of Tomb Raider, which is interesting this past weekend. It's like a shooter, like an on-rail shooter. So, and I believe there's a Call of Duty movie that's supposed to be coming out at some point, or at least it's been talked about. So I don't know if anybody's heard of that before. I was just reading about it actually a couple months ago again. Metroid, I'm not sure if I've ever seen anything other than maybe some toys in Metroid, but that's fine. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty, it's a pretty cool thing that we have a Hall of Fame. There's so many, some of the inductees last year were Donkey Kong, Halo, Pokemon Red and Green, Street Fighter, Microsoft Windows Solitaire. It's a good one. Miss Portal, Resident Evil. So they throw a whole gambit of games out there. So it's pretty cool that these games get recognized. And obviously, only a few can get in there every year. But I'm sure it's a hard pick. As far as who picks them, it looks like we have. Hold on a second. It's a committee of journalists, scholars, and other individuals familiar with the history of video games and their role in society. So, it's a wide gambit of people who get to, go in there and pick the games. So it's pretty cool that, games get recognized like that.
So you're saying one day, maybe we might be picking the game.
We are, yeah. We're other individuals.
So
I think we fit that criteria.
So the reason this popped out to me was I guess I wanted to kind of conjoin it with, we didn't have an article that popped out the Game Video Awards, but 2017, when we all collectively watched the Gaming Video Awards kind of together and came together to talk about it, that was the first year that, to me, the Gaming Video Awards had worldwide or kind of gaming community-wide stature and appeal. After the negativity of like when Spike was doing it, it seemed to have gained more traction, and this kind of struck out to me equally. When I put the two together, to me, they're representative of the increased traction with which games have as a worldwide accepted entertainment medium, with significance as represented both in financial stakes and in Wall Street paying attention to it, concurrently with the award shows, and tracking through a history of those over the years, and now with a Hall of Fame. And I think another articles that we saw a lot was the help me out, DB. The museum or the institute that is now charged with like caring for video games and archiving them became a much bigger deal in 2018.
Yeah, I think Prime referenced it, right? It's a strong museum of play, or it's the yes, right. That they've done a number of pieces there and have continued to gain kind of prevalence and expand. They've had some announcements over the course of 18 related to more ROM preservation and some other pieces there as well. So yes, that idea of preserving our medium is continuing to gain traction.
Yep. So Swiss swing batter into the middle of spring. I don't know why I said that. Take us into April.
All right. So April, we got one of the consensus, I guess you could say, games of the top picks for game of the year was released. God of War on the PS4 from Santa Monica Studio. And it's nice to see, Agasicles, that you are dressed for the occasion. So
yeah, that again was another thing that was not pre-planned, or quite frankly, I wasn't even consciously aware of it until you just mentioned it just now.
Well, I wore my God of War shirt at our Superlatives show to end 2018, so I'm glad we're starting off 2019 on the right foot. But yeah, DB disagrees.
No, I agree, boy.
That's a poor Christopher Judge. I'm sorry. No, I mean this was one of my favorite games. I'm still playing it now, trying to wrap it up. And just if you want to hear me wax poetic about it, go back rewatch our 2018 Superlative show. But they did an excellent job, and as Agasicles' shirt alludes, the dynamics of Kratos and his son Atreus is just very well done. So I think that the praise is certainly warranted, and I know you guys were a little bit more lukewarm on the game, but coming when it did in April, as you can see, like there wasn't much surrounding it, so I think it really took control of a sector of the year, so to speak. Really captured gamers' attention, even though it was a PS4 exclusive.
Yeah, absolutely. As I mean, I personally felt like there wasn't as much of a story in terms of game releases in 2018 as there was in 2017. By this time, 2017, we were playing. We had been playing Resident Evil. We were playing Horizon Zero Dawn.
Breath of the Wild.
Yeah. Switch had dropped. So
yeah.
By the time this thing hit in May, I mean, other than Monster Hunter World, which despite its sales numbers, I still feel like didn't appeal to gamers across a broad range of demographics. I feel like even for people who didn't own a PlayStation 4, there is acknowledgement of the beauty and power and strength of God of War as a title. And really the story of God of War to me is more about the victory of kind of reinvigorating a standing franchise and taking it in a victor, really taking a character that a lot of gamers didn't care for, and kind of reinventing Kratos as something that I think had even greater mass appeal. So
right, and that I was tentative about purchasing the game because I wasn't a huge God of War franchise fan, and I like you. That's an excellent point. Like I tip my cap to them because they did reinvent the game, and they weren't afraid to just make like a 4K rehash of whatever they had been doing previously. So
yeah, it's the thing that I wish people would realize is the case with the Matrix Revolutions, but that's a discussion for another time. DBQ, into the bottom inning of spring, sir.
Yes. So no poor accents or dialogues here. So I think I changed my mind on that. There were some poor dialogues around gaming as we were celebrating the game Hall of Fame. There was tragically again some school shootings that are happening in the springtime, which then led to some additional blustering around how much that violent video games contribute to violent behavior. And I say that because the news story here in the springtime is in May, Valve pulls out of kind of regulating and moderating what games are released on Steam. And so there was a story that there was a game kind of simulating the Parkland shooting from the springtime that was released on Steam, but Valve, in the article here from the beginning or the end of May, is that Valve will no longer be now allow everything on Steam. It will stop policing content unless it is illegal, right? And this is a variety of news articles. News outlets picked this up. It was picked up by local newspapers. It was picked up by tech blogs. I think the challenge here is that regulating that from Valve's perspective begins to get within kind of a sticky legal realm, right? That while things may seem reprehensible, if they're not technically illegal, there are some potential free speech rights there that Valve could be infringing upon. And so rather than trying to police it to such a degree, they just pulled out completely. Which I think in some ways makes a lot of legal and free speech sense. It also clutters up an existing cluttered marketplace and makes Valve even more confusing for people to sift through the chaff to be able to find some good games as well.
So tangent, playing the tangent card, and feel free to jerk me back if I'm driving off the edge here. So I think had this conversation before, or maybe I've gone on a rant, and maybe it was an episode you were on. I rail a little bit against the notion that this is a free speech issue, because my stance is if I'm a private company and I own my platform, I have no constitutional obligation to you to free speech. What I give you is I give you terms of service and agreements, and you sign up for those, and then you're allowed to put on my platform what I say you can put on it. But the other thing is, part of the story to me, and again, you guys helped me through the history of 2018 and tell me if I'm wrong. I think the thing that this article evoked for me is the fact that this came out in a blog post by, I think, their chief of operations or something like that. It was a C-level officer. It wasn't Gabe Newell who made this comment. He made this comment. They almost concurrently pulled this game, like as he was putting up the blog post. And then over the ensuing weeks, I guess, continued to represent behavior that indicated that they weren't actually giving up on policing things going up on Valve. They'd still do subjectively pull games down. I think they don't do it maybe as much, and it's not as obvious. And I also think with the dumpster fire that Steam is, and the fact that they allow such a large volume of games, that when they pull a game, I don't know that anybody will notice. But to me, this was representative of a theme in May of this year, because to me there were three big PR gaffes in 2018 in the gaming industry. There was Bethesda and the release of Fallout 76. There was Sony and the dialogue on cross-platform gameplay, and then there was this one, which was basically the C-level officer said this. Valve did much the opposite, and today no one at Valve talks about this ever having been said, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a good tangent to go off of, right? This did happen, but it kind of got tucked under the rug as well, and in part because they spoke out of both sides of their mouth. And I do wonder if some of this was simply just legal coverage, right? That they could still yank something down and claim it for technical reasons, even if they were trying to pull it down for otherwise. I think the challenge, and maybe this, I have to go back and look at the timing, but right, I mean, I can see where there is a free speech piece to this, because if you take the other argument, then we're back to the baker who didn't want the wedding cake to make a wedding cake for the homosexual couple, right? That there's all kinds of other challenges there,
which the Supreme Court upheld, right? They said
right?
he had the right to not make the cake. So So this is where I go to. I think as a platform owner, I get the right to say you can't market. I mean, Apple does it all the time, right? You can't do porn in an app in my app store, right? So, but I agree. This is probably a topic that we definitely want to decompose apart.
No, right? I mean, I think it's a good topic, and I think the challenge here is the fact that there was the double speak out of it, right? So maybe somebody thought that they were, that this was a decision in some boardroom at one point in time, but not communicated on a technical level at another place. And, in some ways it becomes just another example of years worth of Valve's back and forth, right? The paid mod catastrophe of a few years ago, they were changing week by week. So yes, I think you're right. I think the theme here is the challenge of PR that doesn't always trickle down throughout a company.
Right. And viewers and listeners, the reason that this article was here is exactly the conversation that it has evoked, is the fact that this was a theme that took place in 2018 that had, excuse me, like I said, I have a cold. That sparked a lot of conversation and a lot of controversy, and in many ways, painted the year 2018 in gaming with the stripe that it now has. Prime, on into the summer, man. We talked about games that you play in the summer at some point in 2018 as one of our theme-based shows. Talk to us about what was the news theme in this month.
Yes, well, one of the first of the games that I had picked earlier this evening. So we get, the world starts to actually, it might have even been a little bit before this, but this article came out in June. But it's asking, the world is finally aware of Fortnite, including the Muggles, as it's put here. The everyday gamer or the everyday person, really. It just starts. There's a firestorm of it's out there. It's going. It's everywhere. And NBC News, more specifically, Sarah LeBeau, something like that. I'm sorry if I totally butchered your name. She's asking, what is Fortnite? So she kind of, through this article, she asked the question, and I'm going to kind of jump through these, hopefully fairly quick, but she's asking, what is Fortnite? Where did it come from is the first thing she's asking. Obviously, it's from Epic. They're a North Carolina-based studio. Initially, they just released their kind of like it's almost like a horde mode where there's zombies coming at you. You got to fortify your base or your location, before the zombies come out. And it's the time thing, so they get released every few minutes or so, so often. I'm sure it did fine. I know on consoles, and actually still now, it's still in a beta form. That got released first. A few months later, they released Fortnite Battle Royale for free, and that's when there's 10 million people playing, every week or so. It totally explodes, and everybody's using their stuff over it. And she's asking, well, how big did it get? So around 45 million active players across all platforms. And at this time, it had just arrived on the Nintendo Switch. So, on everything, PlayStation, Xbox, Switch, obviously, mobile. It came out on mobile. You can play it anywhere, and it's free. At least the Battle Royale part is free. I believe the original concept game, horde mode game, I believe is just on PC and I think Xbox and PS4. Switch still hasn't seen that part come out yet, and I'm not sure mobile does. I've never played mobile, so.
No, there's not the Survive the World or.
Yeah, Survive the World. Yeah, so that part's always kind of just been on those platforms, but obviously. It really blew up on Twitch when you had, I believe it was Ninja and Drake playing together. It had the highest viewership at that point, at least. I think that might have been broken by now. I'm not sure, but and then she goes on to ask, if it's free, does it mean it's going to run out of money eventually? I'm just going to shutter the game down because they obviously just get it for free. But no, because obviously you have microtransactions within the game. You can not only can you buy like character skins and all these other little backpacks and stuff like that. Individually, they have obviously the Battle Pass, that's exploded on all other games like Rocket League and PUBG does it now, I believe. Some of these other Battle Royale games do the same thing where I think it's every quarter they have a Battle Pass where if you buy the Battle Pass, every time you level up, you unlock some kind of maybe one or two things actually, but you at least get one thing at every unlock. So a dance move, a skin, or whatever. There's also a free version of that, where you can it's like almost every 2 or 3 levels that you get something. So even if buy anything, you just get stuff. So they don't totally paywall you to death in the game. Excuse me. And I believe that it's $20. Yes, $20, or I think like 1,000 V-Bucks, which is their in-game currency. So then next up we got, why has this game got so big? What happened? Why did this get big when like PUBG didn't? It was pretty big at the time when PUBG came out initially, but this just became a phenomenon. Obviously, one of the reasons I just mentioned it's free. At least the battle royale part is free. Just for me personally, and I don't think she ever really mentioned this in the article, but it has that cartoony style, that cartoony graphics, so it's kind of caters more to the the younger crowd. It is I think it's rated it's teen, so it's like 13, 13 and above. So you got that sweet spot of the kids just coming into a teenager and and above. And obviously I play it, so adults can play it too. But she does mention something about, and I don't remember if it's this part or maybe the next part, where it's like it caters to like newcomers. I'm not so sure about that. It can be pretty hard when you're first starting off in that game. Gunplay is fine, but I mean, obviously you got the building element, that's in the game. That can be a little, difficult to kind of master, even just kind of do. Over the holiday, I was over at a friend's house, and and the couple's kids were they were playing Fortnite, and he's around my son's age, smaller, under 10. And this kid was just unbelievable. He was doing stuff. He was playing on console, playing on Xbox One, and I've seen PC people do building like super quick, like 3 stories in like a matter of seconds. And he was doing this on an Xbox controller, and I'm just like fumbling around. Like I still have to look down and try to figure out what I'm doing. But I don't know about that part, in the article. But it's it caters, like like I said, it's cartoony graphics. There's obviously there's gunplay, so there's kind of it's kind of violent. There's no blood in it, at least not that I've ever seen. So it's kind of that cartoony violence that you see, like in, at least for us, like in Bugs Bunny and Tom and Jerry, stuff like that. So she keeps going on. What is Battle Royale? And she's kind of I think this is for like kind of everyday person, because obviously most of us would know what that is. But she goes into what is Battle Royale. It's 100 players normally in most games, and Fortnite it is. And it's every man for himself, or you can do teams and stuff like that. Last team or last person to survive wins the match. So I mean, that's, I think, pretty self-explanatory. And then she does go into the kids thing, where she's goes through the rating and all that. But yeah, I mean, this game is, I honestly thought that it wouldn't still be popular at this point, but it's still going strong. So they're still doing their battle passes, and they have their little featurettes, or like little cartoons that you do before each battle pass, or each season, I should say, which are kind of funny, kind of cool. A little animated thing, kind of like I believe Overwatch does that too, if I remember correctly. Just kind of like a cinematic thing. I mean, other than I don't know if they ever really go into if there's like an overall arching story that's supposed to run through this at all. But I mean, they kind of make it, I guess, for each season. So I mean, that's kind of cool. But and then she just kind of goes on to say, how it's on everything. It's on, like I just mentioned, Android, consoles, PC, just pretty much anything. Kind of like how Minecraft, when it exploded, it started to just get released on everything and anything. So.
And so from there on into July, Swiss, it seemed that there was some additional background themes associated with Fortnite and games of similar ilk.
Yeah, so we had some stories about parents basically paying a lot of money to have their kids get tutors for gaming, or trainers for their kids to basically play Fortnite better. Which was surprising to us. This the story kind of that we chose to exemplify July is from the LA Times, and it's video games in the Olympics. IOC leader won't rule it out. So basically, the theme for this month is esports and how it's affecting the culture. And I seem to recall us all being a little bit puzzled about this whole, people spending lots of money to train their kids on Fortnite, this Tiger Woods mentality of, if I put them through their paces now, they'll be rich and powerful and super awesome when they're grown up. Especially given the fact that it's for esports. But I've always felt like I don't really understand why I don't like the term esports personally because I feel like it's a competition, and I don't really like the idea of conflating sports like track and field and soccer and whatnot with video games, which is why the International Olympic Committee story is so interesting. He's shot back against suggestions that Saturday's forum with professional video gamers might encourage, quote, couch potatoes. The IOC has invited top esports players, executives, tournament organizers to participate in a series of discussions at the Olympic Museum in Switzerland. We will go into this meeting with a very open mind, IOC President Thomas Bach told reporters during a Friday news conference. We want to listen. We want to learn. So this just seems to be the way things are going. We had I think I also saw some news stories. I don't remember what month they came out this year, but the money that it costs to purchase a new Overwatch franchise has exploded. Like the initial was like 10, 20 million bucks, I think, and it's like doubled or tripled at this point. There's a local university here. They're opening like an esports, they're creating a whole esports facility to try to attract students that play games competitively. So I think competition is a thing. I just find it odd that parents wouldn't. I mean, I guess if it gets you a career, it gets you a career. But I find it odd that parents are spending money on it, and I find it concerning that the Olympics would drop like wrestling, but consider gaming. One other story that was towards the end of the year that's similar to this. I don't know if we covered it on E2KG, but Blizzard just shut down. What was the? They had a competitive game, Heroes of the Storm. They just flat out announced that it was going away, and they were talking about some of the professionals that played it didn't really know what they were going to do now that they didn't have that source of income. So
just for clarification's sake, it's not that the game is going away; it's that they're
the official Blizzard sponsor. Yeah.
Yes, the e-tournaments aspect of it, the esports aspect of it. Yep.
And so it's an interesting note, I think, on the way that the culture is and gaming culture is, and from my perspective on my rocking chair on my gamer lawn, it's weird, but whatever.
Yeah, so kids, what we're saying is get an education. Don't expect to play games for a damn job. DBQ, take us. Oh no, Zeus, me, take us into August. So every company, as the summer was rounding out, started to back off of discounting physical games, and this caused a lot of ire and sturm and drang in the E2KG Flock chat channels because we all caught on to the notion. Probably DBQ had caught on to the notion before a lot of us sat up and recognized that a way to make out was to buy physical, because basically Best Buy, Amazon, and GameStop were paying us as gamers to buy physical copies of games in their effort to keep clawing away and keep their fingernails hooked into the craggy cliff that they were slipping off of as game sales started and continue to prodigiously head towards digital delivery mechanisms. So a lot of us were very big in 2018 on distributing our game purchases across Amazon, Best Buy, and GameStop physical. I was big into that. And then suddenly they started going away. And I don't fully understand why. I think my guess is that as these guys are reading the writing on the wall and seeing that they're just not going to be able to hold on to that, and the console manufacturers and publishers are going to go digital, and the only thing that is going to do for them in the short term is squeeze their margins even further, that maybe there's a larger pivot that they're going to have to do to continue to be game retailers, or maybe they're acknowledging that eventually they're just not going to be able to be game retailers, as the number of icons for publisher clients on my desktop continues to propagate like tribbles. I don't know, but for some reason, they're all backpedaling away from it. And in the meantime, we're kind of losing that option as a means of at least saving dollars. So Prime, on into the month of September.
Wait, can I just go back to that story
absolutely.
for a fun hot minute? Because one, right, it happened where it was the same time when Best Buy Gamers Club, they canceled that and said that when your subscriptions run out, it runs out. And then
it was a theme. Everybody was canceling them.
Right?
The announcements all came out at the same time.
Earlier in 2018, GameStop does this, Pro Elite or whatever, Elite Pro, like another tier that you could pay into. And within like a month, they had canceled it, right? I mean, they had talked about a company backpedaling. They had backpedaled there, and then GameStop also had kind of floated out this, pay $30 for a month or $15 for a month, and you buy as many used games as you want and turn it back around, right? So everybody's trying to figure out where their margins are in physical, and those margins continue to slip and slip. All right. So there's my piece.
So Prime, go ahead and take us into September.
All right, September we have the second of the big releases from Sony and from the big announcements from E3, which was Spider-Man, which once again I talked about earlier in the show. Then I have this article here from CNET from Mark Searles. I'm sorry if I, but once again, butchering the name. So he was just talking in the article about how Spider-Man, he has some thoughts on it. He liked it, of course. He has some, he thought it looked great. Of course, it's a beautiful looking game. Obviously, once again, they got the web swinging, around the city is perfect. But this last point was, boy, oh boy, does this game feel familiar? So he goes on in the article saying how it kind of feels like kind of the other Sony games, God of War and Horizon Zero Dawn, where it's a big open world. It's has the level up and systems in an RPG. Excuse me, shoehorned into an open world game. You got the skill trees, of course, where you can unlock different abilities and power them up and do things like that. Crafting, which is one of Zeus's favorite things to do, or excuse me, Gasicles' favorite things to do, which I didn't even realize it had a crafting element in the game. So you can have armor on your Spider-Man, of course, because he battles all these nasty villains. And he just how he says that it obviously borrows from some other games. It borrows from Assassin's Creed with the Assassin's Creed towers, where it kind of opens up areas when you get to these high vantage points. Some of the combats from the Batman Arkham Asylum series, and then some of the missions from The Witcher 3, which I don't know if he's kind of nitpicking there, because obviously, games are going to do that. They're going to borrow from other games and that kind of thing. But once again, it's not like he's like totally disparaging on the game, but he's just kind of feels that this kind of game and this kind of gameplay was, I guess, a little bit antiquated. That he was, I guess, not directly comparing it, but comparing it with Legend of Zelda, where he thought that was more of pardon the pun, but a breath of fresh air in video games, where this is an open world game. This is a total turnaround from other Zelda games. Obviously you can climb anything. You can you've got for better or for worse, you got breakable weapons, which obviously that's not a new thing, but this is breakable weapons which you can repair, unfortunately, in this game in Zelda. But he just kind of thought that with Zelda coming out, he was hoping that games would kind of, I guess, evolve a little bit. That might have been a little bit. I don't know if Spider-Man has probably been in development for a while now, so obviously things can change and you can change things like that. But I don't know. I think he's kind of nitpicking a little bit in the article.
Well, and I think the big thing is just thematically for September. It was just that this was the second big release, right? So if we talk about the tail of the tape of 2018, as far as the pugilistic nature of it, of game releases, really the story, and as you do the approach to Game of the Year, right, it's really about God of War in May, and then after that and through the E3 announcements, right, the only thing that was really a matter of discussion was Spider-Man. And that's kind of what everyone was waiting for, to see how it compared and how it broke out to God of War, right?
Yeah.
So Swiss, on to October?
You're doing an Alzheimer's crime.
Oh
no.
To think how, yeah, my hubris has brought me down, because I couldn't really articulate the disparaging thoughts I was having towards your unprofessionalism earlier in the episode, Prime. So now I've been brought low. But and this should be really Prime's story, but it's Microsoft, and they'll be rolling out a video game streaming service in 2019. So they announced plans to launch a game streaming service to their Xbox console. Project, this is an article from Fortune, and say Project xCloud will let players stream Xbox One games to computers, phones, and tablets. The company expects to begin public trials of the service next year. So, as we alluded to earlier in the episode, streaming is starting to become a thing. Also, tangential related to the extinction of the physical game that we're starting to see on the horizon. So Phil Spencer mentioned that we see game streaming as a great technology, giving you access to the games you want to play on the device you want to play them on. So Microsoft says game developers will be able to deploy their games to Project xCloud with, quote, no additional work. So they really want to streamline the service and help it to take off, and they don't want to have it be. They don't want it to be reduced to a limited number of games. They want this to be, I think, a driving force. Personally, I don't understand the choice of xCloud as the title. I think it's kind of.
I think that's just a branding that synchronizes it with Xbox.
Yeah.
I think at the end, I mean, we all know that the technology behind this is Azure, right? And this is all part of Satya Nadella's effort to wring as much ROI as possible out of Azure, which makes total sense. Now, just to round the theme out, right? This was simply representative of other machinations that are going on in the gaming industry, right? So other publishers are getting in on this. We had some announcements actually out of E3.
Well, the other thing that this article mentioned was not just publishers. We have Google trying to get in. So I think it was about this time that Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they announced the Project Stream.
Yep.
And
in October as well.
Yeah, you could get your a copy of Assassin's Creed Odyssey to play through Google Chrome for free. And surprisingly, they actually recently announced you can still do it if you sign up. If you play it like an hour, it was sometime in mid-December through
it's the 15th.
January 15th. Yeah. If you play for at least an hour, you get a copy of the game on PC for free. But we're starting. I guess now that I look back, it's amazing how many little breadcrumbs of 2018 are the fact that digital and streaming are the future of gaming. So this was a story that honestly I had kind of forgotten about. For me, the Google and the eradication of physical was more prominent in my mind. But I think so far this has been a very interesting exercise, gentlemen. So I'm glad that we've had a chance to talk about it. And I know in 2019 we're going to be talking a lot about more streaming. I just wish my internet was robust enough to harvest it.
Yes, yeah, I feel that way too. Well, and my personal guess is I think we're still a generation away. It'll be curious, and we'll have the discussion. Is this the thing? I don't know that this will be ubiquitous across console generation 9, right? It'll definitely support Scarlet. I don't know that Sony is going to have something that heads in this direction. I don't know that PC gaming is going to fully head in this direction. So that's a thing that we should break down and analyze and parse at some point. But as we go into November, the theme for that month is, again, it's kind of the round number 12 of the big boxing bout that would determine game of the year, right? We had God of War in May, we had Spider-Man in September, and now we get the big drop, Red Dead Redemption 2. This is the 800-pound gorilla that's going to go into the tables match, the ladder match with the other two big releases. Nothing else really compared to these three games. And from here, it was really a matter of seeing how gamers took to gaining traction with Red Dead Redemption 2 versus God of War versus Spider-Man, with, at least for the Video Game Awards show, God of War winning that bout. Although if I look at the number of categories that Red Dead Redemption wound up getting awards in, it grabbed the majority of everything else outside of the actual game of the year. And I think in good fashion, as far as us being capable of speaking to all of those games, I think collectively we all played all three of those titles to some extent. DBQ, take us out of 2018, man, with the final wrap-up theme that characterized the year in gaming of 2018.
So I think your Game Award segue there is a nice one, because at the Game Awards, one of the big features was the Epic Game Store. So right around this time that we get kind of the potential first kind of big disruption in the Steam, in the PC marketplace in terms of storefronts, right? Certainly there's been Uplay and EA Origin, and GOG has been there. Humble has been there, but nobody's really chipped away significantly at Steam. And now Epic, with all the rest of what we've been talking about with the player base behind Fortnite, and everybody having, not everybody, but all those players having a Fortnite launcher already installed, Epic rolls out their storefront, and they do it by not only with a huge install base, but they do it with two big pieces that give them some competitive advantage. That the week before, Steam had just announced that they were changing some of the revenue sharing with publishers that sell over 10 million, over 20 million, or 5 million and 10 million different copies. So it kind of rewards bigger publishers and not so much the small indie and small studios. But Epic comes out and says that the normal 20/80 split is no longer going to be here on the Epic Store, and it's going to be Epic will take 12 and publishers will take 88% of their sales. And if you're using Unreal, then those costs will also be factored in that 12% cut. So they come out not only with a huge install base for Fortnite, but also a better revenue sharing model. And I think really it sets it up for 2019 to see if that's actually the first time that we get a little bit more disruption and how Steam and Valve respond, right? We had in April or May, we talked about kind of their PR pieces and their lack of consistency. So it is an industry ready to be shooken up, whether that's by digital and streaming services, or it's by continued publisher kind of bifurcation of gaming platforms, so that everybody has a different installer running up depending on whose games they're playing. So that kind of segues us into wherever you want to take us now, Agassicles, into the bright future of 2019.
Well, I want to go ahead and take us out of the podcast and get ourselves rested up for the real commencement of the 2019 year. So let's round things out by going around the horn and talk about what is your most anticipated thing in gaming for 2019. And that can be a game title, that can be a game trend, that can be a new product, whatever you want it to be, just make it short. So Prime, let's start with you.
Oh, sure. Make me put again on the hot seat. All right, well, I had a few things I put down, but I guess the one thing that I'm looking forward to in 2019 is a title that I don't even know how I got into playing this game, but it's Animal Crossing for the Switch, which is hopefully coming out this year. Finally, they haven't really said when, but it's supposed to come out in 2019. So I'm looking forward to Animal Crossing.
DBQ, how about you?
I am looking forward to seeing how the increase in subscription services shakes out, right? Does Game Pass continue to have value? Who else jumps on that train? Does EA's Origin Premier continue? So I think I'm very interested from an industry standpoint to see if we get into other streaming that way, or if some of those players start to fall out as well.
Swissguard, how about you?
PlayStation 5. No, I'm just kidding. That's a couple years away, I think. But I think two titles that I've been excited about playing: Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown, and Fire Emblem Three Houses for the Nintendo Switch.
Very good. And I want to latch onto like a technology trend or a cultural trend or something, but I guess I'm going to go. It feels like it's a bit of a cop-out, but I guess I'm going to go with the game, and I'm going to say Skull and Bones. Which we've gotten a head fake on a couple of times. I'm hoping that we stick the landing in 2019. I think it has the potential to be maybe not quite transformative, but it has the potential to be a big force in of momentum in the gaming industry in the gaming culture and community as far as being a multiplayer game and hopefully being one of these big streamable games, as we refer to them in some cases. So thanks so much, everybody. This has been a great show. I would dare say I think it's been the most efficient that we've approached our year in review over the last few years as we've kind of experimented with different content and figuring out exactly how to wrestle this bear to the ground. It is not an easy thing to try and encompass an entire year of gaming news into a 1.5 hour podcast. And we actually covered 3 remaining gaming superlatives as well. So thank you, gentlemen, for your efficiency and your professionalism and your esprit. As always, I look forward to yet another year of podcasting covering the gaming industry with you. Anybody have any last minute plugs or anything that they want to throw out? Okay, well, thanks everybody, viewers, listeners, family, and friends, my great co-hosts on behalf of the E2KG Podcasting Network on YouTube, and on behalf of Osiris Prime, DBQ Hams, and Swissguard. That is going to do it for us. Please come back and join us as we take off for the rest of this year. Until next time, happy hunting. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourself. Play the games that you like, and come here to talk about the games that you love. We'll be here keeping the light on for you. That's going to do it for us for tonight. We're out of here.